Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. Welcome to English grade 11 video lecture series. Students, I hope that you're doing well. Today we are going to begin our new unit number 5 according to the book. This will be an introductory lecture. Now students, we have covered numerous students learning outcomes in the previous lessons divided in different lectures. We talked about all the competencies like grammar and vocabulary. We covered SLOs of reading comprehension, followed by oral communication and also writing at the end. So the purpose of introducing this unit to you and all these SLOs are so that you can come prepared for the upcoming lectures, and then by following the lectures with a prior knowledge, with preparation, you can learn much more than usual. So we have our lecture number 1. Let's read the student's learning outcome. Here we will comprehend and use. Comprehend means we will understand, and use both in our speech and in our writing. We will comprehend and use contemporary idioms, idioms that are used in this era in our daily lives. Some are formal, some are used in informal context and scenario. So we will talk about idioms and proverbs in the different texts and in their speech. So first, we need to figure out what are idioms and proverbs. How can we identify them? How can we memorize them so that we can utilize in our both our reading and our speech and also in our writing. So in order to do that, in this lecture, we will go through various idioms and proverbs, and we will try to see them in different contexts, and we will learn a very good technique of learning the origin, the background of each idiom so that we can memorize them and retain them for the longest time. Since there is a big list of idioms and proverbs, we need to figure out that how we can memorize them. And even if there are unseen idioms, how can you crack them down and then get very close to the meaning and usage of that idiom? So all these things will be done in our very first lecture about our vocabulary. Next, we will have a students learning outcome that talks about general and specialized reference materials. And these reference materials are your dictionaries, glossaries, and thesauruses. You can access them and utilize them in both print and digital formats. And how do we know this? What are we supposed to find? We are supposed to find the pronunciation of a word or determine or clarify its meaning and part of speech or its etymology. So we have so much information, different kind of information about our word that we are looking for. We can check the pronunciation, we can check the meaning, etymology, and also classification. So this is what we are supposed to do in our lecture number 2, and we will see that how we can access online thesaurus, online dictionary, and other resources. So next one, in lecture number 3, we are going to talk about demonstrate knowledge and application of parts of speech in oral and written communication in varying degrees of complexity. Now students, we are going to talk about nouns. In this lecture, we are also going to touch pronouns, different kinds, and then one of very important thing is using them in our speech and written communication. So whether your topics are of verb, transitive or intransitive, this SLO is a very generic and general SLO. It covers all of your parts of speech. It covers your subcategories of parts of speech like verbs, When we are talking about verbs, we are talking about transitive, intransitive verbs. When we are talking about noun, we are actually talking about all the different kinds of nouns with examples, and even pronouns and all of the other parts of speech. Now, students, this same SLO we will cover in the next lecture. You can find it in the next QR code according to the book. Same SLO, but we are going to talk about verbs. So, and in the next one, again, it's the same SLO, but we will cover pronouns. So, this SLO is repeating itself thrice, but we are going to learn different things every time. So, this is for lecture 4C, and for the next lecture of reading comprehension, increasing and elevating our reading competencies, we have our lecture 5, where we will read the text, analyze how an author's choices concerning how to structure specific parts of a text. For example, we will understand the choice of where to begin or end a story. Why did the author start the story as it is? Can it be started in some other way? So we are going to talk about the choice of the author to start the story and to end the story as well. We have multiple scenarios and choices. The choice to provide comedic or tragic resolution. Resolution means the ending of the story. We are talking about fiction here. So the ending can be of comic relief, it can be very much amusing, it can be comic, and the resolution or the ending can also have great sorrow, tragic, and also lot of destruction, an unhappy ending. So we will see that why the author choose to end the story in either comedic way or in the tragic way. So contribute, and how we are going to see that they are contributing to the overall structure and meaning as well as its aesthetic impact, the impact and effect that these kind of choices by the author leaves on the readers, us. So everything is connected. We are going to talk about the choices, we are going to talk about the structure of the story, and so on. And we will do it with examples. So just like good readers, after the lecture, you will be given some reading materials to read, some text to analyze all these things in the student's learning outcome so that you can practice the learning outcome. Next one, again, this is about analyzing text. And when we are talking about analyzing a text, first we read it and then we reread it critically. So, analyze the organizational patterns in a text. And one of them that we are going to talk about is the cause effect and problem solution. So, when we are talking about organizing a text, we know there are different patterns. You can find cause and effects. You can identify the causes and effects. You can find problems and their solutions in a text. How these two things, these two pairs are organized in a text, how can you identify them and then get your understanding? So this is about analyzing the organizational patterns. We are going to talk about cause and effect and problem solution. In the next attached SLO, which is merged in this lecture, we will examine that how an author develops and contrasts the points of view of different characters or narrators in a text. Yes, students, we are very much familiar with points of views and also with narrative perspectives. So what if you change the narrative perspective? Will it make a difference to the text? We will analyze that how the author or the poet develops and contrasts the points of view. So there may be different characters in the story, there may be different narrators in one single poem, when we are going to see that how the narration is shifting. All right. So point of views of different characters and the narrator who is narrating the story, the storyteller. So how these things are shifting and they are working together in a text. In the next lecture, now it's time to respond to the text that we are reading. And how do we respond? By answering some questions, dear students. So when we are answering questions by reading a text, we need to provide some evidence and reference so that our answer can be verified and it has to be justified. So we will talk about this learning outcome that says cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly as well as inferences drawn from the text. Citing means that we are giving the references and showing the part where we took our answer. So cite strong and thorough textual evidence from the text, and we are also going to see that how the text has two layers. One is your basic layer, the surface level understanding, the surface layer of the text, and another thing is going in the depth of the text. This is what we call inference. We are going to infer, we are going to deduct some information that are hidden, that are implicit. And we are also going to handle explicit information and meaning from the text. So this is how we are going to cite our evidences and how we are going to respond to the text. The next attached learning outcome is interpret and integrate information from a variety of sources for comprehension. Now, what kind of reading strategy are we going to put in learning this learning outcome? So, instead of text, if we have maps, graphs, charts, or diagrams, etc., how are we going to extract information from such sources and present them and understand them carefully and correctly? We are going to see that. We are going to scan the text, look for specific information, and we are going to apply this reading strategy in our second learning outcome. Okay, next lecture is divided in different parts. For lecture 8A, we are going to read, view, and analyze a variety of reading grade appropriate and high interest books and text from print and non-print sources. For example, we are going to analyze poetry, and we will see the different types of poems: free verse, narrative, and rhythmic. We are going to talk about each one of them with examples. Next, it's time to talk about the prose. So for prose, we have narratives and or stories like fables, historical fiction, science fiction, and legends. So what are the differences between these kind of narrations? We will go through them and we will see that how these narrations are different from one another. So we are going to talk about poetry, different poems, and different narratives. Next one. Here again, we are going to evaluate how authors use language, including the figurative language, considering the impact on the reader. And the second part is discuss others reading critically, taking account of their views. So we are going to not only identify and detect the figurative language used in the text, whether it is prose or poem, we are also going to see what others have to say about the very same text, because there are different kinds of interpretations of one text. So we are going to read all the others as well and compare it with our own. So this is what we are going to do in this learning outcome. And for lecture number 9, we will use complex questions for a range of audiences, questions that are hard to understand and break down. This is your oral communication. And the next one is to engage in extended discussions and critique, taking into account other speakers' viewpoints and presenting one's own with clarity. Yes, we are talking about the turn-taking strategy of having a good oral communication, a good discussion. First, we will see that how we can use complex questions for different audiences. We will also touch upon rhetorical questions because they are related to your oral communication. And then we are going to talk about extended discussions about any given topic, following the basic rules of communication where you let other people speak as well. So we will talk about the attentive listening skills, the speaking skills as well. And the last lecture is about writing competency. Here we have three SLOs. Number one is where we talk about writing formal letters and emails to people in extended academic or professional environments for various purposes. So we will talk about formal letters, the structure, the format with various examples. Next one, we have to write multiple paragraphs of free writing for fluency, creativity, brainstorming, or pleasure. We will write multiple paragraphs. We will also see an essay as well. And lastly, we have gather relevant information from multiple authentic available resources following research ethics to write and present their assignment. So we are going to touch upon research skills. How do you research about any problem, or how do you tackle down any kind of problem statement and complete your assigned work, whether it's an assignment or a project. So developing research skills are very much important, dear students. We will talk about research. How do you note them down, organize your research, and present it in a very correct way and careful way. Dear learners, these are all the students' learning outcomes divided into different lectures. We are going to see that how we can cover each one of them. I'll see you on the other side with lecture number 1. Till then, take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.